Hi, and welcome to Email Marketing Best Practices. Here are some tips and tricks that will help you in designing your next email. So first thing is, why are we even using email marketing? Well, first and foremost, it's convenient. Everybody's got email right on their phone. Most of us are on our phones all day, every day. So sending out an email is a way for consumers to find your message, and they'll find it right in their inbox. So this is very convenient for them. It helps consumers stay connected with their favorite brands wherever they are, but they can also easily redeem coupon codes and special offers. So right from their phone, they don't have to be sitting at their computer. They can get an email from you, and then they can go and write online, write to your website, just click that email. Maybe it even puts a promo code in for them, and now they're shopping. It's personal. Today's consumer is bombarded with marketing messages, and they tend to respond best to those that are personalized and relevant. Those are two important concepts. You want to make your emails personalized and relevant to them. With email marketing, you can personalize your message and content based on the subscriber's preferences and buying patterns. Email segmentation makes it easy to deliver the most relevant offers and contents to consumers. It's instant. Well, it takes like 20 minutes after you schedule, but pretty darn instantaneous. Consumers like the ability to get information about exclusive offers and last-minute deals. Email marketing allows your small business to instantly and directly get the word out about these sales and promotions so that your consumers can take advantage of the opportunity to save. So I'm not 100% certain on these numbers as far as being the most accurate and up to date, but what are the most common things that people are doing on their phones? Well, number one is still email. So most people are checking their work email, their personal email. They may have multiple email boxes that they have to check multiple times a day. So people are often checking email. Second to web browsing and social media and getting directions, doing searches, reading articles. It goes down from there. So when you're thinking about your email, it's important to know that your email should be optimized for mobile, because most of us are on our phones multiple times a day checking our email. So while it's great to design your email for a desktop device because you have a lot more real estate, the bulk of emails, it's probably higher than 48% whenever this graphic was made. The bulk of emails, over half, are opened up on a mobile device. So therefore, your email should be optimized for mobile viewing. If your email is not optimized for mobile viewing, most people are not going to read them. They're just going to delete them. Nobody wants to pinch and scroll around on your email to make sure that they can read it. 64% of decision makers read their emails on mobile. So it's highly important that your email look good and be designed for mobile. But it also should be for desktop. If people are at work and they are getting your emails into, say, their work account, it's important that they look good on their work machine too. So as a general rule, your email is not going to look identical in every client, and that's okay. While you need to be designing for things like Gmail and Outlook and Yahoo, and you need to be thinking about those as desktop clients as well as mobile clients, they're not all going to look the same because they've got a lot of different rules. So it's okay if they look a little different. Whatever is most important is that you are testing your email on all of those clients. So make sure you're testing on an Android phone as well as an iPhone. Make sure you're testing on various different email platforms to make sure that your email is looking as close to what you want it to look like as possible. How effective is email marketing? Well, email marketing has one of the highest ROIs, ROI being return on investment. So on every dollar spent, the average email will earn you $44 for every dollar spent. I'd say that's pretty good. Consumers who receive email marketing spend more when shopping. So it's nice to constantly be reaching out to your subscribers, to the people who shop with you, the people who work with you, and say, hey, yeah, we're still here. Hey, we've got this special. Hey, come check us out. Come see what's new. While it's not the only way to reach out, it's still very important and very effective. So let's talk brass tacks on designing your website. Be prepared to be disappointed. Coding emails sucks. I can't lie about it. It's still not great. As far as we've come in the land of web design, emails are still tough. You have to throw out all your web design best practices, all the cool code that you now know how to do. Just chuck that out the window and get ready to do some HTML tables with some inline CSS. Don't worry about cool CSS and cool scripts. Those are gone. Those are not happening. Other things you also want to forget about is stuff like video, audio, Flash, scripts, and forms. If you start putting too much into it, you can get flagged as a spammer. So if you're sending videos out, that your email marketing system may say, hey, I don't know. Or the company, if you're trying to send a company emails, those emails may say, hey, I see a video in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that right in the spam folder. So then your emails never get delivered. So prepare to be disappointed. I can't say it again. There's a reason why websites look the way they did in the late 90s and early 2000s, and your email's probably going to start following suit. While you can make beautiful things, running into that level of sophistication just may not happen. So first and foremost, when you're designing your email needs to fit into an email container. The email equivalent of the browser window is the viewport, or the area in an email client dedicated to showing the actual email. This varies quite a bit. So depending on what email client they're using, whether it's an Outlook or a Gmail, you know when you've looked at your emails, you may see the list of the emails that you have on the side or on the bottom, on the top, and then your actual email itself is in a different window. That window is your viewport. So depending on the size of people's desktop, their screens, their phones, that's going to vary. For our class, we're using Foundation for emails, and that's default container is around 600 pixels wide. That's because the majority of email clients have a preview pane that is between 550 to 700 pixels wide. So when you're starting to think about your design, you want to ensure that your email is set to being somewhere between that 550 and 700 pixels wide. Your images get sized to that width. You've coded to that width. I usually default to 650 pixels wide and have not really been disappointed by sticking with a 650 pixel width anytime I'm coding my email. Now that's the width of it. The height of your email doesn't matter as much because people scroll. However, it still helps to have your most compelling content towards the top because nobody wants to scroll forever for you to get to the point. If you think about what we talk about first fold on a website, that first fold would be what shows up in the browser window first. That's it. That rule applies as well to emails. What shows up on my phone or on my desktop before I have to scroll? And realize that people probably are not going to do 2 finger swipes or more than 2 finger swipes worth of scrolling. Less is better. So generally I like to limit the length of my email to 1500 pixels or less. If I can't get it done in 1500 pixels, I may need to start thinking about what is in my content and how big it is. But then again, just remember that all that important stuff needs to hit in the top because if people don't scroll, they still need to get your message. That's key and critical when thinking about your design. So let's look at the code structure a little bit. When it comes to making emails, divs are not a thing. You're going to be using tables. Tables are still the best way to code an email. If you're hard coding this HTML, welcome to tables, friends. Dust it out of your brain and nesting tables. The support of CSS properties varies greatly between email clients. You're best off sticking with the basics and not getting too fancy. You may be able to code something fancy and maybe that shows up in a Gmail or an iOS mail or some of the better email clients, but somebody somewhere is using an old computer and an old email client, and a lot of that code is just going to get stripped out. And while it might look great on your computer, if it doesn't look great on their computer or they can't see anything, you have not succeeded in getting your message across. Gmail strips out the head tag and consequently the style tags from your email. Therefore, your email CSS needs to be inlined. You know, like old school CSS. Because media queries cannot be inlined, they need to be moved to the body of the email. So if you're manually writing media queries, they need to be put within that body. Working with colors. It's better to use a full 6-digit hex code. So doing all pound FFF 6 times instead of 3 times. That's just a more secure way of coding. It's a little bit, you know that that's going to show up correctly. RGBs are supported, but RGBAs aren't always supported. So just be careful when you're working with RGBAs for your colors. Background colors work well on all email clients as well as colors for fonts. So you could still use the background color properties. However, sometimes on mobile they may not see that color. It can get a little interesting. iOS devices sometimes render dates, times, and phone numbers in blue, irrespective of CSX declarations. So you can go to removebluelinks.com and kind of get that workaround. You may also want to think about just saying, if that workaround doesn't always work, maybe I need to adjust my color palette so that anything that I design will still look good with a blue link with the underline. Blocked images. This is key and critical whenever you're designing emails. Beware of blocked images. Many email clients block images by default, many being pretty much anybody except for Apple Mail, iOS, and Gmail. When this happens, email clients offer an option to display images, but you're relying on customers to know this. So what is a designer to do? We're going to use an alt tag every single time. Alt tags are so key and critical. You should never put in an image without using an alt tag, ever. Alt tags are very important for accessibility. They will show when your images are blocked so your customers can tell an image is supposed to be there. So if somebody's in Outlook, by default, it's going to block all of your images. They can click that button on the top that says, hey, go ahead and download images, but you're relying on them to go ahead and do that to see everything that you've designed. So you want to ensure that if they don't click that button, they still understand what your email was for. So your alt tags need to be explicit in what that picture was about and what you're trying to say in there. So also be very wary of putting text over your images. If you put text within your images, you need to say it in HTML text as well. So if you have your logo over a cool image, that's fine. You can, in your alt tag, say, restate your business name or that whatever that text was that you put on that image. But do not put the body copy of your email. So all of the words and all the whole message you're trying to say, do not put that on an image, because if it gets blocked, which likely it will, your customer is not going to see your message. So let's talk about image file size. Reduce image size. There's no guarantee the recipient of your email will have Wi-Fi, and waiting for images to load is guaranteed to annoy some of your recipients. If they're out in the middle of nowhere and they're using their cellular data, they probably don't want to wait for it. So ensure that wherever you can reduce down. Less than 100 kilobytes is great for images. You don't want them to look horribly terrible, but if you can drop it. Drop it down as small as you can. This is where it's important to size those images to be the correct size of your email container. GIFs and videos and emails. Animated GIFs have surprisingly good support. As usual, there's a lot of caveats. Outlook only shows the first frame of the animation, so make sure to your call to action is visible in the first frame. Some Outlooks, the newer Outlooks, they may render your full GIF, but make sure that the first frame of your GIF has the most important frame and build your GIF around that. Videos and emails are not supported by most. Certain email clients will allow you, so something like MailChimp has its own way for you to embed a small video file within an email. However, many companies will block that email if they say, hey, I see you're sending a video to me. They may just block you as a spammer. So it's better to err on putting in the little poster graphic that says if you click on this, you may see a video someplace else, that my video is going to take you to a YouTube or a Vimeo, rather than try and embed the video directly into the email. Email file size. Sending an email with a file size between 15 kilobyte and 100 kilobyte is ideal. It's not hard and fast. You can get up into the 200-ish kilobyte range. Some email clients will send the email to spam if the file is greater. So make sure if you're sending a 4 megabyte, like just a gigantic email, a lot of times that's just going to get rendered as spam or bounced back. If companies may limit how big an email can be to come in, and it may be much smaller than something like a Gmail. So ensure that that file size is small. Create emails that are short and to the point. Too many call to actions, topics, or long emails don't tend to work that well anyway. So the bigger your email is, the more images, the more scrolling that you have, the file size is going to automatically increase. So ensure that you've got that clean and clear call to action. What am I doing? Why am I here? Why did I send this email? Let's talk about typography for a second and your font sizes. Increase your text size. Don't make users squint to read what you sent them. Shorten the message a bit and increase the size, including links and call to actions, to make sure that they're able to see and understand everything clearly. If you're sending a newsletter or something that tends to be more wordy, you want to ensure that whatever is going in that newsletter has been edited down so that they get exactly your message and nothing more or nothing extraneous beyond what you're trying to tell them. You can always put more information on a web page or on a landing page from your email, but don't overload people. Ensure that, if you're making the font size bigger, they're not having to scroll for forever either. Text should never be smaller than 11 pixels. For comparison, the body style that Foundation for Email uses is 16 pixels at the large size, which is the default text setting size. So 16 pixels is your default. That's typically what most emails want to default to. So 11 gets awfully tiny. So unless you're doing a really small disclaimer, maybe 11 is good. Other than that, it may want to go up. Apple suggests 17 pixels for mobile devices. Google recommends up to 21. So 16 to 18 pixels tends to be pretty all right for setting your font size. Typography. You'll be very disappointed to know that you cannot self-host web fonts in your email. So this is going back to the old school web safe fonts because you're not allowed to self-host. Unfortunately, it doesn't work very well. This may all change in the future, but as of this recording, you're not going to get super cool fonts. So you want to use fonts that are recognizable to most users. In general, use a single font throughout your email. Mixing, you can do maybe a fancier headline font if you would like to. I'd limit it to 2. Your standard typography rules. Mixing several different fonts can make your email seem fragmented and sloppy. Instead, just use one font and just a few sizes and styles. You also don't want to have 15 different sizes. Figure out what your H1 is going to be, or your headlines and your body copy sizes are going to be. You can maybe do 3. I've got my headlines, my body copy, my call to action. There's my sizes. There's my styles. That's it. Short, sweet, and to the point. You do not want to get too complicated with your typography. Button size and touch targets. Apple's iPhone Human Interface Guideline recommends a minimum target size of 44 pixels wide by 44 pixels tall. Microsoft says 34 by 26. Nokia 28 by 28. So these are just general guidelines for your touch targets. So if you're thinking, how big do I need to make my button when it's on a mobile device? That's a good guideline to go with. If they get too much smaller than the average finger, people are going to miss. If you click on the wrong thing, that's very frustrating for people. You do not want to frustrate your user. You want to make sure that they're clicking a button, they click the button that they wanted to click. So this is where your usability testing comes in super handy. So when you're testing your email on devices, test that out on your phone, test it out on your friend's phone, if somebody's got an Android and you have the Apple, somebody's got that Apple, somebody's got the bigger phone, you have a smaller phone, test it on multiple phones and see, can I hit my touch target or is this too small? And if you say, it's generally better to err on a little bit too big than a little bit too small. So now we've designed our email. It's great. We're ready to go. How are we going to send this thing? Well, you're going to have to use an email service provider. Why? Because you're required by law. So if you've ever tried to send an email to all of your friends that you have in your email contact list, you're probably going to get blocked by your Gmail. Maybe you sent an email to too many recipients. Email service providers are made for sending thousands and thousands of emails. They can help you get your emails out without being deemed a spammer. So that's the law. We have the Can-Spam Act of 2004. Once upon a time, email was the Wild West. You could email 10,000 people from a personal email box, and that would just go just fine. Now we use email service providers like Campaign Monitor, MailChimp. There's a dozen, more than a dozen. There's hundreds probably out there. They cost money. They're going to... Any MailChimp is free to a certain extent, but your email service provider is going to cost your company money. But they can save you huge headaches and costs down the road, particularly if you have a large email following. Typically, the bigger your email list gets, the more your email service provider is going to cost, but they're going to help you and give you a lot of good features on the other end. When you're sending this email, don't look like spam. Seems pretty obvious. You don't want to look like spam because that's a great way to find yourself unsubscribed to or blocked. But just writing good code and honest copy should keep you out of there. Your HTML email is definitely not a place for jokes. You don't want to look like a spammer. Just don't do it. Obey the law. The Can-Spam Act became law on January 1st, 2004. It says there are many things you must do as a commercial emailer. Highlights are basically don't be deceptive, and you must include a physical mailing address as well as a working unsubscribe link. So that's a little bit of your declaration of responsibility as a company. You are responsible for what you put out into the world as a company. That includes your emails. So you are responsible for those emails. So they need to be able to come back and contact you as a company. So typically you would like that. A lot of times companies are saying, hey, check out our website, give us a call, that type of thing. People also you're required to put an unsubscribe link. Most email service providers automatically put them in. You can't get around that. You have to have those unsubscribe links, so they automatically put those in. So we've sent out our email. We've set it all up in our Campaign Monitor, our MailChimp. It's gone out to our email lists. Now we're going to get an email report. So once your email was received, you're going to end up looking at your reports once you log into your email service provider, and you're going to see a bunch of things. So I'm just going to explain to you quickly what those are. The first thing is your recipients. While your email list may have, say, 10,000 people on it, this may have not been received by 10,000 people. It may have only been received by 7,000 people. So it's your job to figure out where, those 3,000 emails were missed, and also what happened to those 7,000 emails that were received. So the first thing is the open rate. This is the one we are most concerned about, is how many people opened this email. That's what the open rate is. How many unique email addresses open this email. So if you had sent it to 4 mailing lists and you had the same person on 4 email, they got it twice or something, it's not a unique open. Or if they reopened it. If I went back and opened that email 6 times, the open rate isn't going to show 6 more times. It's just going to show once. I've opened it once. So click rate. This is a percentage of unique emails that have clicked within the email. If you have multiple links, you're able to track the click percentages of each link. So if I put in, here's a link to my website, here's a link if I'm advertising maybe shoes and shirts and hats and dresses, and I've got a unique link for all 4 things in my email, I can see who's clicked on each of those links and maybe track which is the more important one. So if I was maybe advertising shoes first, but I had a higher click link for hats, maybe next time in my email I'm going to say, people really like the hats. I'm going to now feature that more prominently in my next email. So that's your click rate. Hard bounces. This is the number of emails that were bounced back due to an invalid email address. It may have been bounced back for other reasons. Regardless, these didn't get through. You should remove your hard bounces from your email list. There's a way to do this in every email service provider. It will show you how many bounced back. Typically, you want to go ahead and delete those out because The more emails that bounce, if you get into too high of a percentage of bounced emails, you can start getting flagged as a spammer. It also really is starting to skew your numbers. So when it comes down to hard metrics, you want to make sure those hard bounces are out. Soft bounces. This is a number of emails that were not delivered for a variety of reasons, such as a full inbox. So it's a valid email address, but for whatever reason, that email bounced back. Some people like to scrub out their soft bounces. Some people keep them in for a while. That kind of comes down to you. So, but realize that you want to monitor how many of your soft bounces you're having as well. And then you also have your unsubscribes. This is a number of email addresses that unsubscribed from your email list and you no longer have permission to send them emails. So even though you can see, Joe Schmo at yahoo.com unsubscribed, I can't go back and add them into my email list again. They've now unsubscribed. I no longer have permission to send them email. You want to stay out of the unsubscribes. You want to be sending out quality emails that people aren't going to want to unsubscribe to. So how do we do that? To make sure you stay out, keep those unsubscribes low or keep them at zero, you need to have a couple strategies of creating engaging emails. So first and foremost, as designers, you want to have a beautiful design. Aesthetics are always important. Always, always, always. Your design should be beautiful and on brand. When you're designing that message, you want to create an email that you would like to look at, you would like to see, makes your company look cool, makes people want to buy your product, to know more about you. They want to maybe go watch that video. They don't want to be like, meh, delete, meh. Relevant messaging. This is very important for you as a marketer. What do your customers want? What do they want to know about you and your company? How often do they want to hear from you? So in that relevant messaging, typically you need to set up an email marketing calendar so you can look at your day, your month, your year and say, what are the messages I'm sending out? When am I sending them out? And how are they being received? So if sometimes you're going to send, you maybe only email once a month. Hey, here's my monthly newsletter. That may be all your customers want to hear from you. Typically your customer doesn't want to hear from you 5 times a day. That's a good way to get unsubscribed from. What are the messages they want? If you're in a sales business, do they want to see what are your sales? What are your last minute deals? If you have more of an informational thing, maybe you only run a sale once a month and then you maybe have product spotlights or a how-to features. Any of that, other informational emails you can send out and just say, hey, we're still here. Go ahead and watch our new thing on our email or on our website. How often do they want to hear from you? You don't want to blast them with the same message over and over and over again. A great way to get yourself unsubscribed to is to maybe schedule the same email and the same message every day. They'll drop you. You also want to have engaging subject lines. A subject line is a conversation starter between you and your customer. So it's important that your subject line be enticing for someone to want to open your email. Again, you don't want to sound like a spammer. You want to sound interesting. And you want to stay on brand. What is your company's brand? How do they, if you're talking, you're the voice of your company, how are you talking to your customer? And making sure that that is engaging, where if I see that email in my inbox, I go, ooh, I want to click it. I want to open it. I don't immediately want to just delete that, junk, garbage. Subject lines. So, and the other way is A/B testing. If you have multiple ideas for, a new product, a new promotion, anything like that, you can send different emails. It can be more than 2, different email designs to different lists at the same time, and then compare the reports to see which one was more effective. You can do this on a small scale where you maybe say, okay, we're going to send out, we have 10,000 people on our email list, but let's do a little bit of targeted marketing where we're going to send one email to this customer group, one email to this customer group, and see how it plays. And then we can go from there and say, yes, this one was more successful. Let's go ahead and do a broader campaign in that more successful message and voice. And let's send that out to everybody. And now we know we've got a more effective marketing message. So those are a couple strategies. I know that seems simple and maybe it seems a little common sense, but it is important to think of every time you're designing an email is how your email is being received by your end user. So good luck in designing your email, and I'll see you guys on the next time.